Yesterday, we had a very intense day of work among the organizations of persons affected by leprosy or Hansen's disease. So even though yesterday the global forum started for maybe the most of us, today is the actual formal opening of the global forum, including other stakeholders. And today we want to hear from these different stakeholders that are going to say a little bit. We know that tomorrow we will have a broader conversation, but today we want to hear from different people who are honoring us here with their presence. And I'm going to announce by one, and then they come here and speak, and then I announce the next person. And the first person we want to hear from is traveling from very far away, from Indonesia. We want to hear from our brother Kadri. Kadri? And Kerstin will do us the favor with the translation. Kadri, please. And Kerstin. Kadri is the representative of PerMaTa, the National Organization of Persons Affected here in Indonesia. Yes, PerMaTa. A big hand of applause for PerMaTa. I will need the microphone, right?
Terima kasih Saudara Matias Dat atas kesempatan yang diberikan. Selamat pagi semuanya dan selamat datang di Indonesia. Semoga senang, bahagia dan sehat tinggal selama berada di sini.
Thank you very much, Matthias, for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Indonesia, and I hope that everybody is happy and healthy.
Pertama-tama mengawali sambutan ini ingin menyampaikan ucapan terima kasih yang tak terhingga kepada Sasakawa Health Foundation di mana untuk mengumpulkan kita semua di sini.
I want to start with expressing my sincere thank you to the Sasakawa Health Foundation for bringing us all here together.
Pertemuan ini menjadi ruang yang berharga buat kita semua sebagai orang yang pernah mengalami kusta untuk bersama-sama berdiskusi, mencari solusi untuk kehidupan yang bermartabat bagi kita sebagai orang yang pernah mengalami penyakit kusta.
Coming here together is for us is coming together in a safe room together where we can discuss, where we can find solutions together. For a life of dignity and happiness.
Ya, tentu juga menjadi tujuan besar kita adalah menjadi bagian untuk eliminasi kusta di dunia. Tapi saya secara pribadi menjadi tujuan khusus, tidak ada lagi orang yang sakit berkelanjutan karena reaksi kusta dan juga disabilitas akibat penyakit kusta.
Our main aim here is, of course, we want to achieve the elimination of leprosy. But my personal aim is actually we want to achieve a world where people affected by leprosy do not suffer anymore from recurrent reaction and from disability.
Saya juga mengucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada ILAB di mana dalam upayanya yang kuat untuk menghadirkan lebih banyak saudara saya yang pernah mengalami kusta di event ini.
I also really like to thank ILAB for making such an effort to bringing even more people affected by leprosy to this event.
Ya, juga terima kasih kepada anggota final advisor ILAB yang berusaha terus-menerus agar kita dapat masuk di International Leprosy besok, dan atas upayanya yang terus-menerus dan juga mempengaruhi, tentu kami dibantu oleh banyak organisasi yang ada dan didukung oleh Sasakawa dan ILAB, sehingga kita bisa mempengaruhi panitia ALC untuk menghadirkan kita semua yang ada di sini secara gratis di ALC besok.
I also like to thank the advisory panel of ILAB, who made a huge effort to influence and to promote that we, all people affected by leprosy, can attend the International Leprosy Congress without paying the high entrance fees. And of course, this effort was much influenced and helped by ILAB, by SRF, and by many other people.
Ya, ucapan yang terima kasih juga kepada donor, baik secara lembaga maupun individu, atas dukungannya, sehingga kami bisa hadir di sini. Ya, seperti YDTI dan individu Yuta-san, thank you so much karena mendukung juga, sehingga kami bisa menghadirkan lebih banyak saudara kami dari Sulawesi Selatan di sini.
Thank you also to all the individual donors and to all the donor organizations who also made an effort to bring more people. We know, especially from South Sulawesi, Indonesia, to bring many, many people affected by leprosy to this event. Thank you so much.
Juga ucapan terima kasih teman-teman melalui organisasi atas perjuangannya untuk bagaimana bisa hadir di sini melalui berbagai tahapan, yaitu kita diberi tugas dari Sasakawa untuk melakukan asesmen, kita diberi tugas untuk bagaimana meyakinkan para donor untuk mendukung kita sehingga kita bisa bertemu di sini.
And of course, my big thanks to all people affected by leprosy or Hansen's disease who are here today and who themselves had to overcome a lot of challenges to actually be here. They had to do a need assessment, that's one of the conditions. They had to convince various donors to get support to come in here. So thank you for making this effort.
Ya, saya sangat yakin bahwa kerja-kerja kita yang sangat terbaik seharusnya menjadi suatu pedoman bagi para pengambil kebijakan untuk menentukan kebijakan agar pencapaian eliminasi kusta dan khususnya mengurangi penderitaan orang yang pernah mengalami kusta untuk menentukan kebijakan.
And of course, it's all worth it because we have so much to do and we have such a big role in overcoming the challenges and in working together to find solutions for all the challenges that are there in overcoming complications of leprosy, disability, reaction, and all the other things.
Namun kerja-kerja keras kita belum menjadi perhatian dari para pengambil kebijakan untuk menentukan kebijakan. Padahal dalam konferensi CRVD itu betul-betul di situ dia mengatakan bahwa semua pengambil kebijakan wajib berkonsultasi kepada organisasi yang bermasalah tersebut.
And it is very sad that so many governments actually do not yet acknowledge our important role. They do not consult us and don't use us as a reference for their policies, although the CRPD, the Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, says clearly that governments have to consult and have to include people with disabilities.
Olehnya itu kita dibutuhkan untuk terus berjuang untuk meyakinkan kepada semua pengambil kebijakan agar mereka mau berkonsultasi kepada kita untuk menentukan kebijakan, karena kalau dia tidak berkonsultasi kepada kita, maka pencapaian yang diharapkan untuk eliminasi, apalagi eradikasi, saya yakin mereka tidak akan bisa mencapai tanpa melibatkan kita. Karena saya yakin bahwa masalah ini kita adalah kuncinya.
See, now you're making nervous. For that reason, we have to continue our fight. We have to continue to influence and to advocate at the governments so that they listen to us, that they consult us, because I am convinced without consulting us, the people affected by leprosy or Hansen's disease, they will not reach the aim of elimination or even eradication. That will not be possible without our advice.
Jadi olehnya itu, dari kita semua yang ada di sini, saya yakin bahwa kita semua adalah pengambil kebijakan dalam organisasi kita. Kita butuh atau kita harus untuk bagaimana menguatkan generasi pelanjut kita, generasi anak muda yang ada di organisasi kita untuk melanjutkan perjuangan kita. Saya yakin bahwa kemampuan mereka yang akan mampu mengubah pola pikir dunia terhadap masalah kita.
And one way to continue this fight is by involving the young generations, so that they can continue our fight when we are getting old, because it's still a long path to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother Kadri, for your wise words. Next, I want to ask to the stage Mr. Brent Morgan, the International Director of the Leprosy Mission International, and also my boss.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's a real privilege to be back amongst many friends and opportunity to meet many others who I haven't met before. But firstly, I would like to bring to you the greetings from the Leprosy Mission Global Fellowship. And I'm sure that you have met a number of my colleagues around the world at various times. So we bring you greetings. We bring you greetings at this special occasion. My thanks to the Sasakawa Health Foundation for the hosting of this third global forum of people organizations of Hansen's disease. And I just want to say it's a fantastic initiative, and thank you for bringing us all together. I just have one message for the meeting today, and it's this: that discrimination against persons affected by Hansen's disease will not be ended by a single organization working alone. It will not be ended by one organization working alone. I believe that discrimination will be ended by a movement of many different groups working together in close coordination and fronted by organizations of people affected by Hansen's disease. And there are many similar lessons which we can learn from other groups around the world who have faced similar types of discrimination. And one of the examples I would like to share, and I'm sure we'll hear more about in the future, is the African HIV movement, where mobilized leaders of persons affected by HIV were so instrumental in moving the agenda for HIV forward. The movement also challenged power structures at local, national, and global level, and resulted in huge increases in treatment access, greater social inclusion, and more participation in health governance. And it is widely regarded as one of the most effective grassroots health justice movements in modern history. And I think that persons affected by Hansen's disease and our movement, we can learn a lot from this. Therefore, I'm excited about the goals of this forum and for what can be achieved through stronger, better equipped organizations of persons affected by Hansen's disease. And so I look forward to being part of your meeting, learning from you, working with you. And I, at this opportunity, just extend to you every wish and blessing for this meeting and our time together. So thank you and have a fantastic meeting.
Thank you so much, Brent, for your encouraging words and also challenging. A movement of organizations of persons affected will lead the change. Are we ready? Are we ready? Okay, we'll see. We still have 2 more days to really get ready. Now I want to introduce someone that perhaps some of you thought that he was just one of us. And yesterday I heard that some groups were fighting a bit for his participation. And some of you might be confused because he's also
Amadou from Senegal, Maya from India, a little bit from Nigeria, and our Kadri, who we've already heard from Indonesia. Most of you will know that the Island Advisory Panel initiated the advocacy that resulted in the organisers of the Congress agreeing to free registration for persons affected by leprosy. That's a major success in advocacy. It's never happened before. In all the second example I want to give you is through the development of the NTD inclusion scorecard. Some people call it the NISC, N-I-S-C. Actually, this was initiated by the Island Advisory Panel, and then it was worked on by a dedicated group of people that broadened the scope of it to go beyond leprosy to all neglected tropical diseases. The NISC is a tool that NGOs can use to assess how inclusive their processes are. It's quite a searching assessment across a number of different areas. But what organisations should do is to use the scorecard to self-assess in partnership with persons affected by leprosy, to identify areas of weakness, and then to form strategies for how you are going to improve inclusion in those weaker areas of the work. And then maybe 2 or 3 years later, you do another assessment to monitor the progress towards better inclusion. Now, INET member associations that have used this have found it very revealing and therefore very useful. It's available through INET, through InfoNet, through InfoNTD. If you are partnering with or an international NGO, and if you think that they could be more inclusive than they currently are, then I encourage you to recommend the use of the NTD inclusion scorecard. The third example I'm going to give you is through practical approaches towards supporting the flourishing of organisations like the one represented in this room. Last year, INET held a webinar, and around 125 people, mostly from endemic countries, and including quite a few of you in this room, gathered to talk about how to most effectively empower people's organisations, and especially about what INET and INET organisations can do to support them. I found particularly interesting from that webinar was the discussion about how INGOs can support your organisations to be sustainable and autonomous without being forever dependent on external funding. And so there were conclusions around, for example, what international financial support should best be focused on, the need for a long-term partnership, and also who makes the decisions about where the focus areas are, which of course should be the people's organisations themselves. Think about what does that mean in terms of the ongoing focus of INET member associations. So that is an ongoing activity. And my fourth and final example is encouraging and supporting people's organisations like yours to produce reports or submissions for the United Nations processes, such as the Universal Periodic Review, or when the United Nations is reviewing the implementation of the CRPD Convention, for example. Some of you have already done this, sometimes with INET support, sometimes with the support of the Leprosy Mission, which is particularly active in this space. It's a very empowering, it involves work, because you have to get together the information, and you have to think very clearly about the recommendations that you want to make for what your country should be doing, for government should do. But it's a very empowering process because you're advocating direct to the United Nations about the things that your government should be doing to reduce stigma and discrimination and to build social inclusion, all for the human rights perspectives. INET and member associations like the Commission continue to be ready to provide support to you for the preparation of those kinds of things. So I'm going to conclude now by saying that I understand from lots of people that I've talked to that your first day here has been very productive, especially for the people's organisations represented, and I'm sure today and tomorrow will be the same. You can be sure that whatever recommendations and resolutions you decide on, INET will take seriously the challenge of how to support their implementation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Geoff, you made a commitment. Ireland we took it seriously. We didn't expect less, but you said it now. Thank you so much, Geoff. And I want to just grab on to the last thing you said, Geoff, about taking advantage of the mechanisms of the UN, because our next speaker is the UN Special Rapporteur for the elimination of discrimination against persons affected by Hansen's disease of leprosy and their family members. Did I get all of that right?
Yes.
And I think it's very important to hear from her. Some, or many of you have met her. For some of you, it might be the first time to meet her in person. I think it's very important for us to be working very closely together with her. I think leprosy is getting more visibility within the UN, but we need more of that. And we need to work closer together. Beatriz Miranda Galarza, would you please come here? Thank you so much.
Morning, everyone. Selamat pagi. Bon dia. Bonjour. And I don't know. So I would like to think. I want to start thanking Geoff actually, Ireland, because thanks to Ireland I am here. But also I of course to thank Sasakawa, Takahiro, and Alice for organizing this event and actually for to make possible for me to be here. It is an honor to meet you all in person and to finally put faces to the names of those whom I have been so many. I have had so many meaningful conversations during the last year and a half. So I would like to share with you that my journey in the field of leprosy started here in Indonesia in 2010. I was very fortunate to work with an amazing team of persons affected by leprosy, but also persons with disability. And together we developed a participatory action research that continues to bear fruit to this day. I'm so glad that the project that we started in 2010 in Cirebon, in Indonesia, has actually expanded and is having a lot of impact in the community, not only there, but in Indonesia. So one of the people who joined the project early on was Kadri. Kadri was a shy, thin, 19-year-old boy who approached us asking for information about leprosy because he was an ex-patient struggling with reactions. Thanks to the keen perception of Mimi, who was a blind psychologist who was working in the team, Kadri became part of the group, and he was hired as a research assistant. So he was trained together with other 10 of persons affected by leprosy and persons with disabilities to advocate for their rights and to share knowledge, both from their lived experience, but also from the research that they were conducting in their communities. Tragically, a year later, Kadri died in terrible conditions at the local hospital. As Facal Kadri often says, it was not the reactions that killed him, but the lack of care and the negligence of the medical system. A few days later, after his passing, our whole group, persons affected by leprosy, persons with disabilities, researchers, and the students that were involved in the project, visited his family. One by one, we shared with his mother and with his young brother how much we learned from Kadri and the profound impact that he had on each of our lives. She told us that the last year of Kadri actually the best year of his life. She had seen a transformation in him. He made friends. He became less shy. And she was so happy to say that actually he had a girl. Something that she never thought that was possible to have. The last thing that Kadri did was to buy a ring for his mother, thing that he promised he would do with his first salary. By sharing Kadri's story, I hope to raise awareness about several critical issues that as special rapporteur I have found during this year and a half, that concern not only organizations as a whole, but also each of you and each of us as individuals who shape and sustain these organizations. His story reminds us of the importance of deep reflection, meaningful participation, and interaction in compassionate, passionate, and transformative action. So first, I would like to underline the importance of the dialogue between leprosy, disability, and other social actors, as Brent, for instance, mentioned. One of the foundational strengths of the organization of Chirabon, where Kadri belonged, was to build bridges between the experiences of persons affected by leprosy and other organizations that were shaped by persons who were excluded within those communities. This dialogue was not superficial, it was shaped by constant discussion, debate, and reflection. We address deeply rooted fears, social discrimination, and the lack of knowledge that often isolate individuals. Through these conversations, the group created a space of mutual learning and recognition where differences were taken into account, but also the common struggles were transformed into solidarity. The second issue that I would like to raise here is social research as a tool for empowerment. The participatory action research project that we implemented was not just about collecting data. It was about transformation, because that is what participatory action research is about. The 10 individuals who became research assistants, including Kadri, gained awareness of broader structural issues affecting their lives: access to healthcare, social exclusion, discrimination, gender violence, and policy gaps. Research became a mirror through which they could better understand their own situations and a tool through which they could question the systems around them. It gave them the language and legitimacy to speak out, and it gave the rest of us responsibility to listen. The third issue is about recognizing persons affected by leprosy as producers and sharers of knowledge. Often people affected by leprosy, and persons with disability, of course, are seen only as recipients of care or support. But Kadri, and his peers, reminded us that they, you, are overall producers of knowledge and experts by experience. The knowledge they shared wasn't just personal. It was critical, reflective, and politically relevant. They taught and continue teaching others, health workers, researchers, students, even policymakers, about the realities of experiencing discrimination, about survival strategies, and about the urgent need for systemic change. The fourth element I want to raise is training for today's world in local realities. The training we developed within this project was grounded in both global human rights frameworks and concrete realities of the local context. We didn't offer one-size-fits-all sessions. Instead, we responded to the specific needs and urgency of the communities where we were working with. Training then must be relevant, not just to international trends, but to the everyday lives of people in Indonesia, wherever or wherever you come from. That is the kind of training that nurtures leadership to sustain actions. The fifth point is about building alliances to intersectoral and interdisciplinary work. No transformation is possible in isolation, and you know it well. The project Kadri was part of was successful because of the alliances that we developed with health professionals, with academics, with psychologists, with legal experts, and with activists from other fields. Interdisciplinary and intersectoral collaboration allowed more holistic responses and creative solutions. Finally, I would like to mention that the work that we did was important because it was embedded in a human rights framework. Strengthening organizations that work with persons affected requires grounding all actions in a clear human rights framework, and that is what we did in Chirabo. This means recognizing that access to health, participation, education, and non-discrimination are not acts of charity, but legal and ethical obligations. A rights-based approach ensures accountability, promotes dignity, and aligns your work with international standards, such as the UN principles and guidelines for the elimination of discrimination against persons affected by leprosy and their family members in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So saying this, I would like also to say that beyond these 6 points that I have mentioned, perhaps the one more important is the individual awakening for collective transformation. That is something that only you can do. Kadri discovered his own strength and dignity within the group, but his work was personal. And of course, it was helped by the collective spark and the process that we live as an organization. When individuals are empowered, when they feel seen and heard, they become catalysts of broader change. This is how movements are built, not only through strategic plans or funding, but through meaningful encounters, mutual support, and shared purpose. So I would like to thank you for this time to share not only the story, but also what we learned during the time that Kadri was a member of this group and what Kadri actually left for us. I know that many of you did in person, so I really would like to take advantage of this moment and to ask you, please, whenever you have time in these days, personally, and I would also like to listen to you. One of the, well, actually, two of the main things that I'm trying to do during the mandate is to establish a more compassionate work and also based on listening to people. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Beatriz. And last but not least, we want to hear from, officially it says Professor Takahiro Nanri, but he always, when you talk to him, he says, I'm Taka. So I'm going to introduce him as Taka. Our brother Taka, you've heard people are thankful for the organization. I know there's a lot of work behind from all your team, but we want to hear from you, from representing Sasakawa Health Foundation, please.
This is Taka. Did you have a chance to go to a beach? Yeah. Did you special permission from your beach to start? So anyway, as I mentioned yesterday, I would like to once again express my heartfelt gratitude for successful convening of the Third Global Forum for People's Organization on Cancer and Disease. This achievement is entirely the result of the collaboration efforts of many organizations. I would like to, especially thanks to PLM Great Britain, PLM International, its members organizations, IDEC Secretariat, IDEC members organizations, DPZL, COMAO, for their invaluable support. I would also like to commend the ILC Secretariat for its outstanding decision to leave all the persons affected by leprosy participating. But we must not forget that this decision was made possible through your efforts, especially IDEC advisory panel members. Thank you. It was almost 7 years ago that I first came up with the idea of organizing the Global Forum. With generous support of my big boss, Mr. Sasakawa, is coming already. The idea became a reality. At that time, I could never have imagined that the forum grow to become like this. So thank you very much for your support. The first group forum held in Maya Urban's in 2019 aimed to bring people together and make the presence of people's organization visible within the IOC. A space where all stakeholders in the leprosy communities come together and to deliver a collective message of unity. At the second forum, held in 2022, Hyderabad in India, we placed greater emphasis on your ownership of the process. The organizing committee, composed of members selected by yourselves, played a central role in shaping the objectives and designing the program of the forum. This third forum deepens and extends that foundation under the initiative of Dr. Alice. As everybody knows, the former we aim to deepen your ownership even more and to participatory approach at every process. Furthermore, each organization was asked to carry out a needs assessment in advance, helping to shape the agenda and ensure that the discussion addressed the views and the urgent issues facing your communities. Moreover, we clearly articulate the expectation that the forum would produce 3 concrete outcomes. 1, letter of commitment to be made by you. 2, action plans after this forum. And 3, letter with recommendations to key stakeholders. For all these reasons, I'm confident that this third global forum is expected to be the most meaningful. 30 years has passed since the founding of IE, the pioneering network led by persons with the experience of cancer and disease. One of the greatest accomplishments during this time has been your success in gaining access to the platforms and decision-making processes. The IOC Secretariat recognition of the importance of your participation this decision to waive registration fee, just by some of this growing regulations. So now, let me ask you one question. Is this your final destination? No, of course not. It is just a beginning for you. So now it's not enough for you to be included. What is crucial is how each of you transform into meaningful, concrete actions. This is exactly why we have convened the global group. As I said yesterday, those of you guys are here represent only a small portion of the whole. So let me tell you the same thing again. Please remember, you are here as a representatives of the organizations. Behind each of you stand countless brothers and sisters who could not be here today. So your voices, only your own. You speak on behalf of many who remain unheard. So the body of this global forum depends entirely on you. So let me close by sharing my own experience. I have spent over 30 years working in the non-profit sector, multiple foundations and NGOs, both as a donor and a recipient of funding. One of the most important lessons I have learned is this. Nearly all organizations, including NGOs, constantly need a financial resources. But for organization and fundraising ahead of solving issues, they may raise money, but they lose purpose, impact, and eventually legitimacy. So fundraising without purpose is unsustainable. Solving problems is an engine of your success. So no matter how small, what matters is that you take action first. In other words, demonstrate your value through your action toward your donors, toward your stakeholders, toward your communities. At SHL, these are always people watching you. Yes, please leave me. When they see your impact, support you, will surely follow. Please trust me. Yes. So I sincerely hope this global forum becomes a driving force for sustained, meaningful, and concrete action. We as HL will reflect on how we can better support the efforts. Of course, we can support everything because our resources are always limited. But please don't forget, we stand with you always. I wish the Thai Global Forum every success from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want us to appreciate the speaker so far. Properly. Thank you. I have a very simple duty to welcome the next speaker. A great man, a man I met last year and instantly became a friend. Dr. Neeraj is one of the evidences that this for us it's very serious. Just his presence here today is a strong confirmation that SHF and the organizers and ourselves are taking this event very seriously. It is my duty and honor to welcome you, Dr. Neeraj.
Thank you, my brother. So my name is Neeraj Mistry, and I am South African. I am third generation South African of Indian origin, so that's why I look the way I do. My grandparents came from Gujarat. And so I get to claim Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi as my heroes. And many of you, just a little point of interest, may have seen Nelson Mandela wearing the shirt like Prof. Nanri is wearing. Nelson Mandela always wore his top button when he wore that shirt. And they called Madiba shirts. That was our affectionate statement for Nelson Mandela. But I did learn that those shirts were actually from Indonesia. And Nelson Mandela used to have a standing order from Indonesia for his shirts that gave his signature shirt. So it's a special occasion for me to be here. And thank you. Okay, thank you. And I want to thank the Sasakawa Health Foundation, Prof. Nanri and others for inviting me here to speak. I wanted to start off by sharing two reflections. So the first is when I was a professor in global health at Georgetown University, a very expensive university where students paid a lot of money to get a degree. I would often start off the course by asking them, why are you in global health? Why are you interested in doing global health? And I would get answers like, oh, I want to save the world. I want to make a difference. I want to help people. And very often I would say that those are noble causes to these students. But I would also tell them that you should be doing global health because you want to save yourself. You want to find meaning in your life. How many more bigger TVs do you want to buy? How many more cars do you want to buy? And how do you actually get a life of fulfillment in the service of others? And I think that's very important because very often as communities, as people living in the global south, we often feel that people are doing favors to us, but the relationship is reciprocal. We give as much as we take, and we give in different ways. And I think that equity in the way we engage is very, very important. The second reflection I wanted to have was last night when I was sitting and having dinner. I managed to sit with various tables, and I look around this room, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful representation of our humanity. There are people from different creeds, cultures, dressed differently, different shapes and sizes, etc. Coming from different backgrounds. All the common struggles, that is, of vulnerability and a resilience to this mycobacterium that we're facing here. And that is our shared humanity, and that is such an important lesson to take to the world. So I'm honored to be here to share this reflection. So we can start the slide presentation. Okay, there we go. So my job is to talk about mobilizing global coalitions for local impact. And I want to think about this in a few different ways. Very often when we think about movements, we think about creating the big movement and then having this trickle-down effect all the way down to local communities. So from global to regional to national to subnational and right down to the community level. And very often we scratch our head and we say, why don't we have impact? Because the trickle-down effect has so many bottlenecks along the line. And very often what happens is by the time it gets to national and subnational levels, it runs out of resources. So this is the way we need to rethink this, where it's not just top-down, but we can think about it sideways, diagonally, creative. When I look at the leprosy movement, there's a lot of parts to this that if we align in the right way, it can have the greatest impact when being quite efficient. So just to recap for the next, am I going the right way? Next slide, please. So key aspects of global coalitions. Previous slide. There we go. The collaborative international partnerships formed to address complex global challenges and achieve shared objectives. Wide range of stakeholders, including governments, international organizations, civil society, and private sector, working together to leverage resources, expertise, and influence. Okay, and this is the world over with every global movement and coalition we've created. Next slide, please. Okay, so the shared goal and the common purpose is very important in ensuring that there's alignment, there's multi-stakeholder involvement, and then the action that the coalition takes is also very important. It has to be clear and defined. And the types of actions that coalitions take is everything from cooperation to resource mobilization, knowledge sharing, technical assistance, research, and then there's a huge element of advocacy and policy influence. And I must admit, when I was a very nerdy technical doctor, I first came across advocacy, I said, hold on, we doing the work here as doctors, and these people are talking about it. How is this making a difference? And when I started working in the field, that's when I started truly seeing the impact of advocacy. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to go through a few examples of these global movements and coalitions, drawing on what was an unprecedented mobilization in global health and development, and that's the response to AIDS. And when we talk about HIV/AIDS affecting every sector of society, what we realized is, well, it couldn't just sit with one UN agency. It wasn't WHO, it wasn't only WHO, or the International Labour Organization, UNDP, UNICEF, the World Bank, etc. It had to be all of them involved. And that's where the joint UN/AIDS program was actually created to represent all the sectors of society that were affected by HIV. And so the mission of UN/AIDS was to provide strategic direction, advocacy coordination, and technical support. And that's to enable and catalyze the leadership of governments, sector, and communities. So once again, mentioning the stakeholders and also providing that overall policy landscape. And I will admit that it took a good few years before UN/AIDS could really get traction on what it did, because all those terms sound very, very abstract. And it was when it started defining its mission in very concrete terms, and the latest of which the policy was the 1990, where they set the objective of saying 90% of people who are infected with HIV should know their status. Of those 90%, should be on treatment, and of those 90% of treatment should have suppressed viral load, so they should be on effective treatment. And that was a turning point in UNHCR's strategy, where they could define that sort of global action for all countries to follow. Next slide, please. And that became the reporting framework, but also something else that happened that was quite significant. It wasn't just about countries in the global south as such. HIV was an issue that affected countries all around the world, but it was a collection of different epidemics. The way HIV was transmitted in New York City was very different from India, was very different from Uganda or Kenya or South Africa. And so under the banner of HIV, there were different types of epidemics, and everyone used this common framework to report, including countries like Sweden. Next slide, please. Okay, the other good example to look at is the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, TB, and Malaria. And this, in our UN language, is a multilateral financing mechanism, which essentially says it's a large pot of money that the wealthy countries of the world contribute to, and then it's dispersed. But the important thing about the Global Fund is that because this is public funding, this is money coming from tax revenues. The level of accountability and governance that needs to go into it is very, very high. And so the board of the Global Fund at the secretariat level in Geneva is configured in such a way that it actually has a whole lot of representatives from civil society, from donor governments, from endemic country governments, from people living with HIV. The interesting thing that also happens, and if we get to the next slide, please, is that the way the Global Fund operates is through with country units called country coordinating mechanisms. This was a very important step to bridge the global and the local. The other thing that Global Fund did is it had to make an investment case. When it said we need $5 billion a year, they had to say why. And they had to have their metrics. These are the number of people we will get on treatment. These are the number of tests we'll conduct. These are the number of pregnant women we will manage with HIV or to prevent the transmission. And the other thing they did is get the highest level of commitment at the principal level, the heads of state level, to actually get involved and the commitment to HIV. So you can see that the Global Fund is now diversifying its impact to also look at things like the mental health impacts of HIV, TB, malaria. Next slide, please. And so what's interesting at the country level is that the country coordinating mechanism, and can I see if anyone has been engaged with those of the country coordinating mechanism in their country? Okay, so we do have a few people. And the country coordinating mechanism has representatives from all these stakeholders at the country level, including people living with HIV, as well as the private sector. And what they do is they oversee the grants management at the country. So everyone submits a proposal, it goes to the country coordinating mechanism, they consolidate it, and then send it up to Geneva. But what the Global Fund also did is started dispersing money in the hundreds of millions of dollars at a grant level. And all of a sudden in global health, when we started looking at that level of funding, it was a paradigm shift in how we had to think about health programs. Because every now and then we would get $20,000, $50,000, and all of a sudden it was hundreds of millions. So we had to think big about it. So this was one of the really audacious things we did in global health. Next slide, please. I was part of a group that set up the Global Business Coalition on HIV/AIDS. And the reason why I use this example is all of a sudden we had to bring the issue of HIV/AIDS to a different stakeholder group. And this was the business sector. And whenever people thought of the business sector, they thought about pharmaceutical companies. Gas and the mining companies had migrant workers who were being infected with HIV at a rate of 25, 30, 40% prevalence. And these companies faced economic declines because they were affected. So it was starting to articulate and present the issue, a health issue, to different audiences. And this was a very important time. And so the focus areas was advocacy. And this was also very interesting because in this room, we have good relations and we work well together. And we would be the obvious people to talk about leprosy. But all of a sudden, when you had a corporate CEO talking about HIV, government officials would take notice instead of listening to it from a doctor. Why is this a business issue? Why is this an economic issue? So the more we can diversify our stakeholder group outside of the leprosy community, the louder our voice and momentum that we can get in the response. So it was advocacy, it was the workforce, it was the core competency and community engagement. Every company operates in a local site. Core competencies was a very important thing to bring to the fight against HIV. And I think this is also a lesson that leprosy can learn. In order for drugs and doctors to work, we need so many other things. We need infrastructure, distribution, administration, etc. And these are the types of competencies that the business sector brings. There was an NGO I was working with in Ethiopia, and we negotiated a deal with Ethiopian Airlines to provide free space on their cargo holds in order to take supplies to Ethiopia. So it was finding new partners that could bring different things to the table that would help our response. And I think that's a huge opportunity we have in the field. Things like media, communications, commodities that are required. Simple things like soaps, bandages for dressing, sanitation and hygiene, all contribute to how effective our health programs can be. One of the biggest distributors of HIV drugs and malaria drugs across East Africa is DHL, a company that understands logistics. And so we need to bring these diverse sets of partners to the table. Next slide, please. And what was interesting when we created the Global Business Coalition on HIV/AIDS, we helped create the policy framework and the mindset and advocacy for why business should be involved. But soon what happened after that is we started seeing the emergence of national business coalitions. And this is very important because what happens is it becomes customized and localized to the context. And it wasn't just the large multinational companies, but you also got large national companies getting involved, small and medium enterprises, which are more relevant in the context of our countries in the global south. Next slide, please. So this is the other global movement that has happened. Is anyone familiar with United to Combat NTDs? Yes. Okay, absolutely. So Uniting to Combat NTDs is an important platform to create the advocacy and policy landscape under which leprosy falls. So under the border of the bigger umbrella of NTDs. And I think the last big action for Uniting to Combat NTDs was the Kigali Declaration. That got commitments from many donor governments as well as private sector. From what I saw on the last scorecard, it's close to $1 billion in commitments that was received. And the leprosy component to that is 45 million. So as a community of people engaged in programming and delivering services for leprosy, we can hold them accountable to this, to say, where is this money, how's it going, and how do we have great impact on this? Next slide, please. The other important mechanism that has come about is the END Fund, the End Neglected Diseases Fund. And this fund was created to leverage resources from high net worth individuals and corporations that tend to be a bit more quicker and nimble than when we deal with public funding, like the Global Fund. The public funding generally mobilizes much larger amounts of money, but for private philanthropy, it can be quick and is project by project. So you can actually submit to this. For my brothers from Ethiopia, Minister Kasete actually sits on this board. And when we look in our global context, in the global south, there are also very rich people in the global south. And when I think about the ultra high net worth individuals in Africa, from Chris Perubi in Kenya, the late Perubi, to Mo Ibrahim, to Latin America, the Carlos Slim Foundation, and Padres de Rios, which is a huge network as well, to India with Mukesh Ambani and Lakshmi Mittal. These are all the types of people that we need to start reaching out to in order to bring them into our movement. Okay, so these are a few examples of global movements and coalitions. But one of the biggest challenges we have is when we deal with health issues. For us who work in the field, we understand that the moment you walk out on the street and you ask someone in the general public about these issues, to politicians, to business leaders, they don't understand. People resonate with people and bring them along with to our cause. And so when I was working in neglected tropical diseases at the Global Network for NTDs, there were 7 diseases with names like schistosomiasis and lymphatic filariasis, etc., that no one could say, let alone understand. And so we have to find a way of bringing this message across. And we developed a video, next slide please, called A Mission in a Minute. Let's see if we can get it to play. We did. Very good. Okay, try it again. We're at the beginning of something big. We're on a mission to see the end. You may never have heard about the whole system of like snake, fever, trichome, bookworm, whipworm, and all around them. But over half a billion children developing the world have these diseases, living and breathing on some of them. The effects of deaths. They stop children from going to school. They stop parents from going to work. And they take away any chance families have of living themselves out of poverty. Without treatment, they can lead to lifelong disabilities and suffering. But for once, this is something we know because we've got something a simple element. What's more, many drug areas are for free. All we need now are your donation, so we can deliver these goods to people who need the most kind of thing, and set up treatment programs and communities can run themselves. We've done that, and with just 50 cents, you can protect one child or one human against set up. And you are just a start. You need to get your friends, your family, and your co-workers get involved. Because with enough of these money donations, we can see the end. 2017 by 2023. So join us together. And so we actually did focus groups with general public audiences from different areas of society to say, what will resonate with you? And this was a campaign that we started in the early 2000s, and we had a timeline. So we said 2020, and we said, we're not sure if we could get it done by 2020. But people said, it's okay, just as long as we have a sense of what's happening. And what the action was. Okay, so the next please. So this is what the power of advocacy and activism is. And we talk about how we become champions. University, and I said, how am I going to excite these students and these professors in the fight? So I started off the talk by saying, thank God for the gay white man in North America. And they looked at me a bit confused. Is this a global health talk? I said, well, imagine if HIV had not affected the gay community, a community that had 2 male incomes per household, that were empowered, had senior positions in corporations, in the media and entertainment industry, etc. So when HIV/AIDS hit them, they could mobilize. They had resources. They had networks. And that's why we had the AIDS response. the reason why I'm grateful for it is, would this have been yet another African disease swept under the carpet if it wasn't for this? And what was very interesting is when they started advocating for universal access to HIV services, it wasn't just about access in Europe or North America, it was access for the world, for the mothers in Africa, for the mine workers across the world. And so this was a really, really important movement. How to Survive a Plague is a documentary I would certainly recommend that many of you can watch to get a sense of what HIV/AIDS was like. Next slide, please. And then once again, getting back to presenting the issue, HIV/AIDS first got on the UN agenda, not through the WHO, but this is the former US ambassador to the United Nations, Richard Holbrooke, who actually took HIV/AIDS to the UN Security Council. And it actually got a resolution passed at the UN Security Council. You think about HIV, a health issue affecting people, what's that got to do with security? But this is the way we need to be able to articulate our global health and development issues to different audiences. He made the case that, hey, if armed forces across the world are getting infected with HIV, it's a huge security threat. And that's why they need to be tested and be put onto treatment. So I think this was a very important lesson as well. Next slide, please. Access to antiretroviral therapy, we know intellectual property, but when people were dying, we had to re-examine our business relationships, particularly with intellectual property, and things like compulsory licensing, voluntary licensing, etc. Were new policy directions that we developed so that countries around the world could actually get access to HIV treatment. Next slide, please. And this is something else that was very significant that happened, which was Accelerating Access Initiative, where we said not all countries can afford very expensive HIV drugs. They were costing about $10,000 a year in the United States. And this is when differential pricing came out. And we said, based on what a country's GDP is, they need to adjust the price of HIV drugs accordingly. So this was a very important effort, and all the pharma companies came on as well. Next slide, please. And so this is part of the HIV response. There were very unlikely partners that developed relationships in order to tackle an issue. And you can see on the top right here, this is Tony Fauci with Larry Kramer. Tony Fauci was at NIAID in the United States, and Larry Kramer was one of the biggest AIDS activists in New York. And at the bottom, there's Nelson Mandela and Zaki Ahmed, who is a person living with HIV and part of the treatment action campaign. Next slide. So this is just a lot of words on the slide, and I can share these slides so you can read through it. But the Medicines Act in South Africa said that if we have an emergency crisis in South Africa, the government is going to allow the parallel importation of drugs. It's going to allow the use of generic drugs that are still on patent, and even to the extent of getting local manufacture of drugs, if we can figure that out. The pharma companies were not happy with this. So they took the South African government to court. And the South African government, together with Treatment Action Campaign, stood in solidarity and said, we're going to take this on because we have people dying of HIV, and we need access to this life-saving treatment. So it was an unlikely alliance between the Treatment Action Campaign, many of the activists of whom were part of the anti-apartheid struggle, and then the government partnering up to take on industry. Something else very interesting happened, because they won the case, and then the government said, okay, we now can provide these HIV drugs. But then the government didn't allocate resources for it. And so people still weren't having access to drugs. The Treatment Action Campaign then partnered with the pharmaceutical companies to take on the government, and took the government to court and said, well, we have this approved, but why aren't you providing the drugs? And it's unethical and immoral for you to do this. And so these relationships are really, really important when we look at all these issues. Next slide, please. I put this down as a reference, South Africa's Treatment Action Campaign, combining law and social mobilization to realize the right to health. and this is authored by Mark Hayward, in the Treatment Action Campaign. So once again, I'm a nerdy doctor. All this legal talk over my head, okay? And I have to make sense of it and understand it. And for people who are not trained in the field, lawyer gobbledygook is a whole other language, right? With due respect to my colleagues, lawyers here. But what's really important is because of our history in taking on a system of injustice in South Africa where we were fighting apartheid, we had to create the legal structures in the country. And so the AIDS Law Project was something that was created in South Africa, and that became the forefront, the tip of the spear in fighting our legal battles. And I think this is a really important assessment that all of us need to do in our countries, and what type of legal structures are in place that communities, leprosy communities can leverage in order to push a particular agenda. So none of us have to go become lawyers tomorrow, God forbid that. But we can certainly leverage existing infrastructures, and many universities have law clinics that can actually be used for that purpose. Okay, next slide. So what does this all mean for leprosy? Everything that I presented. So here's a big consulting word: decentralized integration. And that basically means that when we create a global movement, it sets the tone, it sets the message, and it aligns the partners, but the work needs to be happening in country. And when the United States now has withdrawn under the Trump administration a lot of international development and global health funding, I was at a conference 2 weeks ago in Kigali. And there was a presentation on global health equity, and they talked about how USAID funds, 80% of those allocations actually stay in the United States, and only 20% actually makes it out to country. And we have to split that around. But the work doesn't happen at the global headquarters. The work happens in country. So having that decentralized integration model is quite important. Funders and donors have moved by a force. I've done many presentations to funders and donors, and they really get involved, and they like, we can do this, we can do this. But ultimately, when they sign a check to a project or a program. And so it's very important for us to have these projects and programs in place, because just being moved is not sufficient. They need to report to the donors, etc., to say, here's number of people who were treated, etc. Something else that's interesting that happened with this, when I spoke to people and they said, wow, these diseases are so important, and they were quite moved by it. I said, well, if you moved by it, why haven't you done anything about it in so long? They said, we were just never honest. And so always make sure you're asking for what you need. Context of action, knowing the local laws and engaging with some sort of legal platform in country is important. Competencies and capacity. A lot of our community-based organizations are at the coalface, delivering services, engaging local people, doing testing, treatment, etc. But adding competencies or additional work on things like advocacy and communications, we need to make sure that as a network, we can support local action on the ground and bringing in resources. One of the things I think might be interesting to think about is how we can have a task force that can actually work with each country to help develop their plans. Comprehensive and balanced approaches. Very often in programming for NTDs or health programming, we forget about mobility management and the mental health aspects of disease. So ensuring that those components are there. Engagement of people living with diseases. I think this is actually a shining example of how it's done. And then the advocacy and legal platforms. Next slide, please. So just over the next day or two, as we think about this, next slide, please. Just a couple of questions. Can the leprosy movement be a series of projects that we look at? And as we develop these projects, it's a very bottom-up mobilization of the movement. How do we frame leprosy to be people-centric versus pathogen or bacteria-centric? So we so often focus on that rather than the people. And in neglected tropical diseases, we often talked about neglected communities rather than neglected diseases. What are those national and sub-national structures that we need to look at? What can we leverage off? What new structures we need to create? And then how do we articulate the needs of communities around the world and put it together to make a huge ask at a global level? Advocacy, there are a few funders for advocacy. The Gates Foundation was doing a bit of work in this, but we need to think about how we incorporate advocacy as a line item in our program budgets. And then how can communities be in the driver's seat on voicing their needs? And this is what the basis of the conference is. So I just want to conclude with a quote from one of my favorite philosophers. And I think when I look around this room, I see these really, really strong relationships. But we need to extend those relationships outside of our immediate sphere of influence and in our community to partners. And the next slide, please. And this is by J. Krishnamurti, who says, action has meaning only in relationship. And without understanding relationship, action on any level will only bring conflict. Understanding of relationship is infinitely more important than the search for any plan of action. And so when we think about relationships, it's about us journeying together rather than having the immediate solution or plan that's going to solve everything. So next slide, please. So thank you for your attention, and I got to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, I can shout out.
JC, still good with you.
Absolutely, I'm not part of that. Thank you for coming. So nice to see you. So my question was, it was so fantastic. I need time to, assimilate everything. But it's like, I open like a lot of strategies for action that are given in your talk. I'm sure that we'll all collaborate to make things work. My question was, did you hear, you might have, you might not have, there was an issue with Nigeria not getting the medicines for leprosy for over a year. And there was some kind of a problem which WHO, the UN, and the charities and everybody affected could not solve together. And it's still a mystery because, nobody came to us and told us why that happened. Even today, I don't know. And finally, the drugs did arrive for whatever mechanism was created for that. And then the distribution, I was thinking, even if it came, it might not reach the town, where it's needed. So in your talk, there was a touch upon, we touched upon these sort of aspects. So how should we have acted so that this doesn't repeat again?
That's an excellent question, and the supply chain is so complex. There's so many bottlenecks along the way. But what Nigeria does have is they have a steering committee, and from that committee is everyone, including the drug companies who have representatives on that committee. And I would think that that would be the first port of call to try and figure out where that bottleneck is on why the drugs aren't arriving and why they're not being distributed. And I do think I can speak certainly for Africa and India with the National Vector-Borne Disease Program as well. Those national level bodies are absolutely important in coordinating at that level.
Okay, and so the question was like, one more question was, how should we have acted as a community of people affected? Not thinking like it's the issue of Nigeria, not somebody else's. So we failed, and we don't have yet a mechanism where our failures are collectively considered to be something to do with me too. I live in India. So I think we are kind of, I'm just acknowledging that we have failed somewhere, our African brothers and sisters. But I wanted to put some words to it, like how did we not catch it, or what would we do so that it doesn't happen? So that's all the time.
I think we do need a troubleshooting mechanism that it's almost like a hotline that we can call when there is a challenge anywhere around the world. Very often WHO through the country office and Dr. Vivek Lal was supposed to be here. But they're the ones who have to be on point to whom the communities can go and say, we're having a challenge with this. But we can talk more about what that fail-safe mechanism could be. Thank you, Jeffrey, for the question. Any other questions? Could we have the last slide, please? And then the last slide. I have put my contact details in my email and my WhatsApp. I know there was a lot to digest, and as you think about things, feel free to get in touch. I'm always happy to answer these questions and delve further and also point to resources. So no more questions. So with that, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Neeraj. That was a very insightful session. So I have the honor and privilege to bring up next presenters. And I want to say that those are people from my constituency. I said that for my constituency, not because I'm from Nepal, but because I'm a lawyer. So I have the honor and privilege to bring up stage the Nepal Law Society. They are experts and have vast experience in evidence-based advocacy, lobbying at the highest levels, and they are also involved in good governance, lawmaking, and justice. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and invite us.
Good morning, everybody. I respected leprosy experience person from different countries, donors who are supporting for these communities for many years, government who has a legal authority to support these communities, civil society, NGOs and INGOs who are working for many years for these community people. I am Krishnaman from Nepal. I have seen many delegates from Nepal and who are representing many civil society, government, and these communities. We are sharing the experience not only Nepal Law Society. I will explain later about Nepal Law Society. So we are here and we have different organizations who gave us opportunity to work together, like Sasakawa Health Foundation, TLM, Idea Nepal, NNT, and government. So Nepal Law Society has very short time experience because you are working more than 60 and 70 years in these areas. So I would like to honor and we have Nepal Law Society to Sasakawa Health Foundation, especially Dr. Nanri and Dr. Alice, who gave us the opportunity to work these areas. Same way, here in Nepal, Shobhaka Kandel, who work with us together in these areas. Same way, Idea Nepal, Mr. Dinesh Basne, Amar Tinisina, who work together with us in these areas. Similarly, NLG, we call Lal Lord Hospital, Miles Ramesh Chaudhary, also here, he also work together. Then government, from the Nepal government, Dr. Ravindra Vaskota and Sandra Sunas, they are here. So I would like to give big clap to them who work together with them. Because of their support, Nepal Law Society conducted and got opportunity to work this legal research and legal literacy. After that, we also got an opportunity to conduct national conference and including government, civil society, and the donors also involved that part. Based on our past experience in near future, Nepal Law Society, Nepal government, and our civil society who are going to conduct many components to support these communities. So we have very short time. From Nepal Law Society, Mr. Mohan Acharya, he will present what you did in the past and what you are going to conduct in future very shortly. Then our Dimishina, he will briefly how this community benefited from these activities and how we are going to work together in future. So you know why Nepal Law Society is selected from the Sasakawa and Foundation and government and civil society. So I will explain it briefly. Nepal Law Society is a think tank. It's a group of judges, lawyers, professors, law academicians. We already had a long experience, more than 30 years, working with the parliament, government, judiciary, and civil society. We have very specific programs in the area of constitutional development, legal development, and then we are working with the parliament on the lawmaking process, working with the government for law making process, and again we are working with the judiciary on how to increase the community to access in the judiciary areas. So I think based on this experience, we have produced a very short brochure. My team will distribute later. So how we contributed Nepal Law Society, Sasakawa Health Foundation, other organizations, we produced just 4 pages briefly document. I think I would like to request to everybody to study that part. So now time is very short. So I would like to request Mohan Acharya what we did during this last year, how we contributed these communities, how government and the civil society own this area. Want to briefly share this issue.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna. Good morning, all. I will be very much brief. Most of the parts Dr. Krishna has already highlighted. Basically, I would like to recall one thing. One decision made by the British judge, where he was saying that one of the culprits, before handing to him, what he was saying that you have to be hanged because you have stolen the ship. Others may not steal a ship. That's how we have also been discussing today about the issue. What are the legal issues? What are the complications? How we are going to resolve these issues? We are together here. I am very much agree and happy with the Dr. Neeraj, who was presenting just before this presentation about the involvement of multi-sector, not only the UN agencies, but also within the government agencies. Basically, in our case, Ministry of Health and Population is focal ministry, where one of the representatives is also here. This issue is should also be taken care of by other various other ministries as well, not only from one ministry. So while resolving these issues, this type of complicated issues, all other type of ministries should and agencies should be involved. That's how we have been bringing up about our research, which was not very long type of research. We conducted recently legal research through the just review, focus group discussion conducted all over the country. And also the key interpretive interview we conducted based on that we have we found some of the interesting results. Can you can see the brief map of Nepal. Basically, this is plain area, which is near to bordering with India. This part and that part with India. This part with China. Basically, most of the districts, affected districts, are from plain area, what we call Tarai land, and some of the hilly districts are also affected. You can see. Out of 77 districts, 18 districts are most affected districts in Nepal. Basically, in Nepal, we have seen from the human rights lens for this issue. What we found that in Nepal, more than 16 people's organizations have been working in the area of leprosy. Despite that, the Ministry of Health and Population is also working in this area, particular area, but was not. We were not being able to abolish this particular issue. And now, what we found from our legal research and legal literacy program, that it has to be seen from the integrated approach, not from the health, only one health perspective, not only from the social perspective. It has also be seen from the legal perspective and human rights perspective. That's why we have been saying that it has to be adopted some sort of integrated approach, so that from human rights based approach, so that you can see from the legal perspective if there are discriminatory provisions in your law. Those provisions should be eradicated and amended through the amendment process or enactment of the new law. That is one part. And second part, the entitled rights and entitlements of the people affected by leprosy and their family members should be provided fairly and neutrally to them as a part of human rights. Their rights and entitlements. Those rights and entitlements were overlooked even in the case of Nepal as well. That is second part. And third part, the health-related treatment and advocacy, that is another part, and awareness type of programs all over the country. If you adopt that way, to deal with this particular disease, then it will be easier to get the result with very limited time. That's how we have been. Our findings says. And even if Nepal is party to more than 24 international human rights treaties, and if your country is not party to some particular treaty, customary international law applies. If you are party to civil and political rights, Convention on Civil and Political Rights, Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and Other Rights, you can take from that way. That is one. The second one is this is time for the fourth cycle of universal periodic review. Nepal is going to submit its fourth report by 6th of October this year. And I am working with the Office of the Prime Minister, Council of Ministers, and an expert from Nepal. And Nepal is going to submit that state report. And I am preparing for the Ministry of Office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. This is the right time to conduct advocacy with the government of Nepal, so that we can we can address this issue through different lens. For example, the legal perspective, health perspective, social perspective, and all the multiple type of perspectives. We have been doing that way. So this is right time. So legally we have laws which are discriminatory. We have found that even the marriage can be white if you know that after your marriage, if you know that you are affected by leprosy, that marriage can be white by legal. That type of provision is still there in Nepalese law. And there are some other laws also where we are not being able to criminalize. For example, untouchability is there. That is based on caste, not based on this disease. Untouchability is there in practice, in society, but that has not been guided by law. That this type of discriminatory provisions are also there. That's why we are trying our best to develop integrated legislation so that all laws can be amended at once, together. And the human rights of the people affected by leprosy can be ensured through the integrated legal approach, integrated amendment of the legal laws and based on the human rights approach. That's what we have been trying our best to do. And in terms of the reform of the institutions, working at federal level, provincial level, and local level as well. Together with the legal reform, we are also planning to develop reform of the institutional organizations which are responsible to ensure the rights of the people with affected by leprosy and their family members, and the service delivery. Three parts we have been working together: legal reform, institutional reform, and the service delivery. That's how we have been thinking that within few years we will be able to abolish leprosy from Nepal, as per the global commitment of the country, like the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. I think these are our approaches, and recently we have also conducted leprosy conference in Kathmandu with the support from Sasakawa Health Foundations and under the leadership of the Ministry of Health and Population. And co-organizers were 10 different organizations we recently conducted that, and we came up with very interesting recommendations from that leprosy conference. Around 10-point Kathmandu declarations was also developed, and based on that, Mr. Yuri Sasakawa was also there, Taka was there, Dr. Ellis, most of the people were also there in the conference. So we came up with interesting recommendations from that conference as well. And now we are going to develop an integrated amendment law so that the government will be tabling that law to the Parliament. Nepal Law Society and together with other organizations will also be working together. And we hope that within very limited time we'll be able to amend those discriminatory laws, ensure the rights and entitlements of the people affected by leprosy and their family members, and the service delivery will also be reformed, and the institutional mechanism will also be reformed from top to bottom level. For example, from the federal government, provincial and local level. That's how we have been trying our best, which is really new type of idea, adopting the human rights based approach. I will stop here. I think a few experiences will also be highlighted by Amar. If there are any questions, I will be happy to respond. I'm really thankful to all, basically the organizers, providing this type of opportunity for us. Thank you for now. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, and good morning to all my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. It is always so difficult to speak after the great speakers, but I try my best to speak and bring some of my experience of the legal research project that was recently conducted in Nepal. Many things, I believe, and we saw that also, Mohan sir and Dr. Krishnaman, they covered. What I would like to share is that in this project, people with a lived experience like myself, we involved ourselves. We actively participated, and because of the efforts of legal research, it was much easier for us to organize the National Leprosy Conference in Nepal. It was very difficult to organize such kind of conferences, but because of the efforts of Nepal Law Society, and not only them, because of the combined efforts of all the organizations working in the field of leprosy, that's made possible. And as Brent Morgan rightly mentioned, discrimination to the people affected by leprosy will not come to the end by only one organization. It needs the common efforts and collaboration of all the organizations working in the same field. So we are very much happy that our new partner, Nepal Law Society, is there to work together with us. Truly speaking, in the beginning, when Dr. Alice, she contacted me and she requested me to have a meeting with Nepal Law Society, I was not so much happy in the beginning because I thought myself that there are many organizations like the Leprosy Mission and other organizations working in the field of leprosy. Why Sasakawa Health Foundation is trying to work together with Nepal Law Society? I was a bit disappointed, but later I attended 2-3 meetings. Then after that, I realized that their approach was the right approach because Nepal Law Society was the best organization to lead the issues, legal issues and human rights issues. And because of them, even I actively participated in the research, and I got an opportunity to interview some of the ministers in Nepal. So lastly, national conference was successfully conducted, and that has brought massive awareness. And we were able to invite the Prime Minister of Nepal. So thank you so much, Sasakawa Health Foundation, for this wonderful opportunity and also connecting us. So we are from Nepal. We did not know each other before, but Sasakawa Health Foundation connected us with Nepal Law Society, and now we believe that after 3 years, that means next conference when we come and attend, by that time, we believe and we expect that there is still one law in Nepal that has discriminated people affected by leprosy. And we wish and believe that by next conference, we will be able to abolish the law that discriminates people with the lived experience, at least in Nepal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nepal for society. So we have 10 minutes break. We have coffee break now. Some people step out and get some church, and then we'll be back here in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. It is indescribable honor to me to introduce Mr. Wu Yaoqiang, which means to be strong. His name means in 1994, actually in 1993, at the Leprosy Congress in Orlando, Florida, we gathered together people affected by leprosy, health workers concerned with the participation of persons affected. And I remember clearly, we met in a hallway, all standing up. And we said, we need to found an association to give voice to persons affected at a higher level. Because we need to be heard. So we improvised, we formed an international organizing committee and a local organizing committee. And we decided that the place where we would found this organization would be in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Well, I'm not from Rio de Janeiro, but I'm from Brazil. And we had a number of Brazilians there. But we had a number of brothers and sisters from India, from Korea, from the United States, from Hawaii, and other parts of the world. And we needed to get everyone there. And to bring our brothers and sisters from China was a great victory. In 1994, we were able to get 3 persons affected by leprosy who were considered beggars and totally outcast. They couldn't get a visa or a passport to leave the country. And we got them to come to Brazil to be founding members of IDEA. Our idea that you all hear about now. But it had a very humble beginning and a very fierce fight to be able to assemble and to come together to found an association. I am the only founding member of IDEA here. And I am very proud to introduce the first daughter organization or son organization from IDEA International, which is HANDA, China. They were founded 2 years after the founding of IDEA in 1996. So without further ado, I'll just pass the word to them. So they will share with us their learning, their experience about sustainability, involvement, that we may learn from them. Thank you. And the word is Alex, the project manager and many other things at HANDA, and she's serving us with the translation. Thank you very much, Sally.
Quý vị các bạn chào mừng. Đại ca hậu. Cổng kỳ nhập quân thầy sinh bổ kiện khi không với tôi yêu thiện. Cái dạng như hơi tâm đó là cái đại ca kỳ. Có vị hàng ấy đi đồ của đại ca phân享hoàn là quân thủ y viện thầu tập của kinh nghiệm. Phân nhận ý thầy cùng quốc gia chỉ là do quân thủ và thực hiện luận sĩ quy luật.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the Sasakawa Health Foundation for the invitation. And I'm very pleased and honored to share the HANDA experience in local resource mobilization. My topic today is a journey from international reliance to localization.
關鍵成立於1996年喺20，我們始終專注於麻風康復者服務，累計服務1萬多名服務範圍覆蓋全國10。康復者個生活發生咗翻天覆地嘅變化。
Founded in 1996, HANDA has dedicated 29 years to working with people affected by leprosy. International partners as well as our local supporters and government. The people's lives have been greatly transformed.
溫達喺96年成立，就16年喺我們幾乎90%以上嘅資金收入都係依賴國際捐贈，呢種過度依賴，讓機構發展也出。
International donations.
2014年後，中國對境外個資金監管逐步強化，使得我們獲取國際資金難度大大增加。與此同時，政府鼓勵社會組織發展本土籌款能力，減少對外資金依賴，讓我們意識到本土化嘅自然趨勢。
To 2014, China tightened regulations on foreign NGO funding, making international support harder to secure. In the meanwhile, government encouraged NGOs to develop local fundraising capabilities, sending us a clear signal that localization was inevitable.
過去國際資金雖然係穩定，喺長期依賴就我們本土支持體系薄弱，公眾對我們了解不足，參與力低，捐贈意願也不高，限制組織對可持續性發展能力。
While international funding was stable, long-term dependence left our local support system weak. Public awareness and engagement were low, limiting our domestic donations, and it also constrained our organizational sustainability.
過去國際資金雖然2016年開始，我接見人國際捐贈陸續增添，促使我們決心探索本土資源路徑。混搭喺這樣嘅前人發展，必須要從輸血轉變為舊血，建立自己本土支持體系。喺18年，新一屆理事會決議將本土化設為戰略目標，為我們發展指明嘅方向。
In 2016, international donors began withdrawing, pushing us to pursue localization. To ensure long-term survival, we had to shift from external blood transfusion to internal blood generation. In 2018, our board formally made localization a strategic priority.
我們充分利用社交媒體和眾籌平台進行籌款，讓更多人民輕鬆參與公益。喺2022年，我們啟動了月捐計劃，目前已經有500多人參加月捐，為我們工作提供了穩定的資金支持。2024年看達收入為24萬美元，主要來源為政府購買服務、個人捐贈、眾籌等。
We leveraged social media and crowdfunding platforms to engage the public. In 2022, with the support from the Sasakawa Health Foundation, we launched a monthly donation program. Now, with over 500 supporters donating funding to HANDA. Individual donations and crowdfunding.
混達的理事會不份參與決策，喺 喺資源籌集中扮演關鍵嘅角色，比如以範籌款活動、連接企業資源，係我們公信力措施，理事會真正成為資源動員核心力量，讓我本土資源投入上有得更加穩健。
HANDA board not only participate in decision making, they also play an important role in resource mobilization. For instance, they organize fundraising events, connect with corporate resources, and vouch for our credibility. The board has truly become the core force of HANDA in local resource mobilization, enabling us to move steadily on the path of localization.
我們始終要堅持財務透明，定期公布存款使用情況，或舉辦公開活動日，邀請捐贈人探訪康復村，讓他們親眼見證項目嘅成效。通過呢樣舉措，我們贏得了捐贈人的信心。
We publish financial reports to visit villages. Through these efforts, our credibility was strengthened and the donors' confidence on us was strengthened.
我們始終要牢記使命，深入了解麻風康復者的真實需求。只要呢樣做，我們才能設計出符合更符合需求的服務，要提供更有效嘅服務。
We always keep our mission firmly in mind and strive to gain in-depth understanding of the real needs of people. Only in this way can we design projects that better meet the needs of people and deliver effective services.
喺本土化的探索過程中，我們都遇到一些困難和挑戰，也收穫了寶貴嘅經驗。無論文理如何變化，我們都要堅守機構理念和初心。但係我們行動的道力完全，也贏得了公眾信任。
In the journey of localization, they have also encountered those difficulties and challenges, but we also accumulated invaluable lessons. No matter how the environment changes, we must hold fast to our organization's mission. This is our force and the key to earning public trust.
要始終把服務對象放喺追求，放喺首位，計算出更真正的幫助他們嘅項目。必須有很強的執行力，真正做出成果，贏得捐贈人的信任。
We should always prioritize the needs of people and design the projects that truly help them. And we must possess capabilities to deliver tangible results and thereby secure long-term support from our founders.
我們不能把捐贈人當作理所當然嘅事情，需要站喺捐贈的角度去思考問題，要為他們提供有價值嘅服務。反饋項目進展，分享受益人的故事等，讓他們感受到自己捐贈的又係有意義嘅。
We should not take donations for granted, but rather think from the donor's standpoint. We need to provide them with timely services, such as regularly feeding back the progress report, sharing beneficiary stories, so that they feel the significance of their donations.
我們不刻意討好捐贈人，而是要通過我們的專業和熱情，
để dẫn đầu số thì dẫn hiện dẫn đầu ba mình thì mà ký khâu sĩ mình phòng hàng trẻ.
We do not deliberately cater to or flatter our donor. Instead, we can influence and guide them to become our mission companions through our professional work and passion.
最后，我将把本土化係一個漫長的艱辛過程，只需要我們堅守初心，勇於合作，就一定能夠實現從國際依賴到本土化轉變為助力我們機構穩定發展。
Finally, I would like to say localization is a long and arduous process. However, as long as we stay true to our original aspiration and have the courage to keep exploring, we will undoubtedly achieve localization and promote the sustainable development of the organization.
謝謝大家。
Thank you. You can see. So with that, we want to thank you for your participation. And you know that the treasurer of ID International is from HANDA. So we are in good hands. So yes, the next presenter, please.
Morning. From HANDA in China, let's go to the wonderful country of Sri Lanka. At this point, let us hear from the next speaker and listen from him. Let's welcome Pastor or Reverend Geoff Sivagnanam.
Thank you very much, my dear friends of the world, my dear friends, bride of the world. This is a great opportunity. Standing in front of all of you to sharing a beautiful story. I think we have everywhere stories. If we think about the leprosy, definitely we have a lot of the stories. Without the stories, we are not raising funds. But this story is quite different. Because the Sasakawa Health Foundation requesting us to share in this story. I share the story on behalf of Leprosy People Association, Sri Lanka. The story, the name, the story of the drum player of Sri Lanka. The story of the drum players, Sri Lanka. Please, next slide. Now you are seeing the drum players. This drum play is quite different. Not only play, they want to play with the dance. They want to play with the dance, they want to tell you the story. Because this is very hard, but a very strong tradition. This legacy had started 3,000 years ago. Unfortunately, the Sri Lankan community, we have lost this, the beautiful drum play. Now, in Sri Lanka, we have no this very remarkable and unique display. But you know, now
this drum playing in Sri Lanka by the people affected by leprosy, the members of the Leprosy Association. They revival this tradition because they are bride of the community now. The Leprosy People Association established very recently, 2015, established Leprosy People Association with the help of the Leprosy Mission Great Britain. When we established the Leprosy People Association, at that time we had a very energetical, inspirational power with all of us. Oh, we are establishing the Leprosy People Association in Sri Lanka. But we have had a small fear. How we can run this organization? How we can drive this organization? How we empower this organization to running independently with the financial sustainability? That is, on that time we have had a small fear. But on that time we have, because that fear, I want to tell you the most important thing. The many of you know that Sri Lanka had come through 45 years war. On that time, many charity organizations established in Sri Lanka to help people. Because most of the organization creating more dependency culture in Sri Lanka. Because we had that fear on that time, the Leprosy Association also sometimes creating depending attitudes among people affected by leprosy. That's sometimes worse. That's we had to think about how we can sustain this organization. Then, this slide next. We have decided 3 kind of components. First, collaboration. Second, capacity building, development. Third one, fundraising is a different way. That's we think about when we established Leprosy People Association 2050. Next slide. How did this strategy receive resource funds? First thing, we insist all the members of the Leprosy Association, please give the membership subscription. What do you have? 10 rupees? Okay. 100 rupees? Okay. If you have some money, 1,000 rupees you can pay. Interestingly, the village level Leprosy Association members, they paid. I have experience. One day, one Deformity Leprosy Association member brought 10 eggs to the committee meeting. Yes, only 10 eggs have. I have money, but I want to give 2 eggs to the society. That is a very remarkable and a very emotional experience. The leprosy members of the Leprosy Association have their heart to donate for their service. The money has come from very grassroots circumstances. That experience encouraged us to celebrating birthdays, each members of the Leprosy Association, where the located is association 6 districts. The district Leprosy Association requesting all village societies, you want to celebrate your members' birthdays. Yes? How we celebrate? Very simple. You can celebrate, plant 2 or 3 coconut trees in the name of the birthday baby. That's very simple. Yes? Then they celebrating the birthday. 2017 started. Then the district committee requesting, oh, how many plants? Last 2 years you planted. Yes, we have planted 100 or 150, yes, great. Then they have decided. They asked, can you donate one please for the Leprosy Association? Yes, the same slides. Yes, this tree is donated for Leprosy People Association. They labeled LPA. You know, each poplar trees annually 200 poplar trees. Then annually they contributing their poplars to the Leprosy Association. I think now more than 300 poplars we have in Jaffna district. They donated for the Leprosy Association. This is the way, the kind of way to approach the people, local people, contributing for their association. Then, how we develop in partnership with the local people. That is the most important thing. Next slide. This is the private bus company, very local private bus company. The Leprosy Association members asked to them, can create a partnership between you and us. Then they asked, why partnership? The bus company. No, we want to do that. They explained. Then they agreed. The bus company, please, previous slide. The bus company created partnership with the Leprosy People Association. They are supporting some ways. You know, the bus company, they are supporting to the leprosy awareness, postering in the bus, plastic, they posting. And also they have put this box in their company. Also they connected with the banks, partnership next steps. This kind of the fundraising, the Leprosy Association, they create in the local way. The next slide. Unfortunately, this is a very energetical experience, but very sad. Because when we asking people help, as people affected by leprosy, creating more passion. People come forward to help people with the compassion. But sometimes the compassion not give a dignity. Without the dignity, the compassion no meaning. That's on that time we have decided we should change our approach in the next step. That is a rebranding. Please, next slide. No, previous. Yes. This is the new approach. The previous approach is okay, but it's quite want to change. Then we have decided 2 years ago, rebranding approach. The Nisanga is young lady, person with affected by leprosy, members of the Leprosy Association. When she was affected by leprosy, the husband with her, with the 2 children. On that time, the community and the local people very compassionate to help, to help. Because she is a needy person. But now, the Nishanga, she rebranded herself because now she's an actor of the village society. This village society established in the North Jaffna called the Carterplum Village Leprosy Society. Now, this leprosy society have a drama team. The Nishanga and her colleagues, all the people affected by leprosy, developing the drama team. Usually the women, they don't come forward and they speak the play drama in our culture. But these ladies, they take this responsibility, rebranding. They are not the person with affected by leprosy. They are the great actors in the society now. The community inviting these people for their performance. They are selling their products in the community. If they want anyone performance drama, yes, because the people they want to watch the women acting. Because this is a very unique. Now they are rebranding. Especially my first story, drum playing is a very unique. Now across the Sri Lanka, only the leprosy people organization, especially women, they all want to fly because these women now drumming across the Sri Lanka. Only these women have in Sri Lanka as a drum players. How we make this strategy? Create new brand, different ways. Then we want to showcase the narratives in the societies, attract resources, and rebrand perception, and finally building bridges. This is the most important time I want to tell. The drum playing and drama team, not only that. Next slide. The best farmers of the society is now having in the people of Leprosy People Association. Government selected the annual best farmers in the Jaffna district and Baunia district. They selected from the people affected by leprosy, from the Leprosy People Association. The best native seed collected, because you know the global warming and the environment problems, we lost all our native seed. Now the 41 seed banks have the Leprosy People Association Sri Lanka. That's not the most important thing. Only they have only that seed banks. Without anyone, no one follow this kind of discipline or practice. Only the Leprosy People Association, now they have a 41 seed banks. Very rare seed they are keeping and donating to other people, village people. Best wild honey collecting, people having the Leprosy People Association. Because all traditional healers connecting with these people. You know, the traditional healers go to wild honey to heal the people. But the traditional healers said now, oh, very rare and wild good honey we have, where members of the Leprosy Association and the society, they sending the very rare honey. Next one, the best writer of the district. The members of the Leprosy Association. Now you can ask how these kind of the work, how developing fundraising. The first approach, quite good. Asking money, giving money, or good. The second approach is most powerful than now the people come forward asking, oh, we can we partnership with you? First approach, we go and ask people, can we partnership with you? Approach, all the people asking with the Leprosy People Association, can we partnership with you? Because we want to get the good money. Can we partnership with you? We want to get very rare, most important, the seeds. Can we partnership with you? Because the most important thing, we want to learn some good cultivation methodology. Because this lady is appreciated the government, local agriculture and social service department, the Parameswari is the best teacher of the agriculture from the Leprosy Association. Because they provide a body for this lady. Next slide. Yes. I want to conclude. The Leprosy People Association now in Sri Lanka rebranded. Transformative community problem. Why they rebranded? Not only transformative problem, not them. Now the Leprosy People Association transform a seed of the transform for the community. The second thing, mutual growth. They not only grow, they are in the seed, in the community, mutual. everyone now grows in the villages because the community respect them. They give the dignity to them. The third one, scalable impact on the resources. Because everyone now ready. One example I can say, the local village, the particular district Eastern Sri Lanka, usually the district meeting, they asking to the people want to give a hall to the meeting. They, yes, we can give, pay the money. They ask before that. Now they come forward and donating for these people. No, they don't money. They're asking, yes, come, we are partners. They give a dignity. The equal mutual partnership given donating to the leprosy association. I think the Leprosy People Association Sri Lanka now is a seed of the community transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We need to give a big hand also. Wonderful. Wonderful session. I just want to before giving the audience for us to ask questions, I want you to turn to someone and give a big smile. Don't give. Okay. I just want you to turn to someone and give a big smile. Big smile. Turn to someone and give a big smile. Okay, that's good. That's good. And now I've been opportune to stand here and also to invite someone in our midst, which is Dr. Shayla from BRAC. Give her a big oh, she is wonderful.
So, thank you. First of all, I would like to convey my gratitude to Sasakawa Health Foundation to allow me here to present myself and my organization, how we are actually working in the country and beyond country level. So, my name is Shayla, already announced, and I work in BRAC Health Program. BRAC is a development organization. Basically, it's a community-based organization. We work for the country and beyond the country in 14 countries among the 14 countries beyond Bangladesh, really, in the globe. And it's a very people-centered organization, I would say. And let's take you to my organization. Next slide, please. So we consider our country BRAC as a pioneer in the community development. So it's a young boy, Sarfozle Hassan Abe, after the where the cyclone affected. We all know that Bangladesh faced in 1970 faced a cyclone. So our initial focus was for restoring the housing of the population, agriculture, fisheries, as well as some basic health services to the community. And at that time, a women-led microcredit program was launched, allowing access to small loans for poultry and seed first, and then it gradually expanded. And BRAC formed medical teams that time and actually provided the community healthcare services to the people and some life-saving knowledge, health education to the community. And then homemade oral rehabilitation saline for diarrhea and some other interventions for communicable or infectious diseases. And microfinance gradually evolved to include literacy, health awareness, and market linkages. And we have our village artisans that started, and they were trained and connected, especially women. And they grew into Arom. You might have heard the name of Arom. It's now a brand of the country artisan, and now supporting over 75,000 artisans. Next slide, please. So these are the BRAC, our coverage. Here 45 million plus. Basically, I across 14 countries, including Bangladesh. I didn't mention the name of the countries here because it's huge, but I have mentioned the coverage for different programs. Here we are seeing that it's microfinance. These all are development programs. Other than that, there are many enterprises. So it's the microfinance program and the climate change, disaster risk management program. We have health program. I'm not going through all the numbers. We have gender justice and diversity department because we work with gender equality for the people who we work for. And we have also a main core program like health, education, and other poor graduation program throughout the country. So we work for the under-poor population of the country through different programs, and we link them finally after graduation to our microfinance program too. So next slide, please. So the strategy, actually the 4 pillars we are following for doing our development work. So first one is inclusive growth. So people who are living in poverty and other vulnerable situations in the country, our maximum effort is to actually help them to show their potentials in their livelihood and their lifestyle. And I already mentioned that we have one department already, gender equality. We always focus on that part, especially for women, girls, and adolescent girls, as well as children in the society. And building resilience, under building resilience power, we are working for structuring the vulnerable systems, vulnerable communities, and individuals. We want to see that they will have the capacity to prevent, adapt to, and recover from the impacts of health shocks, climate change, and natural disasters. And finally, we are investing in the future generations for future growth. So in that part, we have youth platform, as well as we have education program for which we are providing quality education and products. We have skill development programs for which we are actually giving training and improve their capacity building in different sectors so that the youth can do some jobs and show their potential in the society and improve their livelihoods. And we have also our migration program through which we usually try to involve youth for safe migration and as well as the people of Bangladesh to be able to finally realize their high potential. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So scaling impact for sustainable financing to depending actually BRAC is itself is a solution of ecosystem, I would say, because BRAC usually builds a blending environment of grants, business model, as well as community-led interventions. From handmade paper to mobile financing, and all social enterprise aligned with BRAC's mission to improve equity, livelihoods, and access in its development programs. And here I would say that through microfinance, just if we see that for over 5 decades, BRAC's microfinance program has enabled 36 million families to escape poverty, some data, and through ARL supports, as I have mentioned, it's a big enterprise in our country, as supports over 75,000 artisans. So, and among these 75,000 village artisans, 85% of whom are women, usually generates approximately 150 million in revenue annually. And through BRAC Daily, actually BRAC I didn't mention here everything. I just mentioned Arrow and BRAC Daily. So daily links rural milk producers to urban markets, so cold chain logistics supporting small holder and smallholder livelihoods. And through Bikash, serves over 80 million users, advancing financial inclusion in Bangladesh through fast digital financing service unicorn. So why actually I would say that sustainable financing, because through the earnings through microfinance and enterprise, actually each year we will have to do the budget on the development programs, and we usually support those 1 year budget to our senior management, and that is finally approved by the BRAC board finally, and then we start work and before the actually 50% of the core development programs earning service actually is given by the almost 50% approx. It might be sometimes it might be more, might be less a bit. So are invested in for the development program in the country, and 50% is reinvested for enterprise and micro loan. Then next slide, please. So from grants to growth, if you see that BRAC has been transitioning from donor-funded program to a self-reliant financial model, and microfinance annually operates lends about 7 billion and microloans throughout the country. And enterprise arms such as Arong and BRAC Daily collectively generate, I already mentioned, 150 million in annual revenue. Over half of the surplus, this also I have mentioned that 50% more than 50%. I will give an example to the help in my next slide with the health program. And achievements of 2024, if we see through different programs, I tried to show some numbers here. So in health, there are 3.5 billion access health and nutrition services and awareness messages, and 268,000 plus mothers underwent safe deliveries with the support from BRAC, and 25 million people of 227 were confirmed TB patient and received treatment. BRAC tested 1.1 million, of whom were confirmed 6,814 malaria patients, as we work in communicable disease part also. And I'm not going to, I think we can take this slide. Next slide, please. And if I show the funding source for health intervention in BRAC, you just single pie, you can see that BRAC's funding mostly is 57% in health, BRAC's contribution that I mentioned earlier, that I have maybe 50%. And we have other donors contribution SPS, strategic partnership approach, and other donors is 12 and 2%. And from health even we have some different layers of service actually program beneficiaries. We are giving them in few of them who are economically solvent, they are also coming to get services from our different primary healthcare center and some of the clinics. Also a little amount of money from those groups who are economically a bit middle income group, but from that we are getting the percent. This is the of one fiscal year, 24 and 25, and up to June 25. So we are getting 29%. We have got 29% revenue generated from the health program itself. This the enterprise part. So next slide, please. So these are the health components we are doing. We try to address and focus and to start for those projects and for those diseases actually in the community which are in need. And basically BRAC health program usually works together in partnership with the Bangladesh government, because when the Bangladesh government the strategy has been made, then actually we are the part of that health strategy. We work together with the government and decide for next 5 years or something how we are going to add and what are the components we are going to address in the community. On those basis that actually work for maternal and child health. We work with the government for NCD, non-communicable diseases, hypertension, diabetes, as well as eye care services, and mental health services also for the community, especially for the pregnant mother, the pregnancy period, as well as after delivery. And we are working in climate change and health project. Very recently we have started from last year, this one, because even in our climate adaptation plan, health was not in part of that, but now we are starting with the government to talk about this, that health impact is very important for climate change, because we have some experiences in the country and we started working on that part also. And we are working in the disability care. We have some limb and brace centers. We are providing support as per need of the community. And these all are included in the primary healthcare portfolio of BRAC health program, and we have other portfolio, communicable disease. In that one, we mainly focus on tuberculosis control as well as malaria elimination. In leprosy, actually, we are not working. We have many actors in the country, and in Bangladesh, I know we have some colleagues from Bangladesh also. Leprosy is in some specific area now, and our other partners are working there. So BRAC is focusing because this is under Global Fund grant, as Dr. Neeraj already presented in his presentation. And we are the principal recipients with the government for tuberculosis as well as malaria. So malaria has been reduced a lot, but for tuberculosis, still we are struggling as it's very high burden in the country. And we reduced, according to WHO, and we had prevalence survey in the country, we reduced the prevalence of tuberculosis almost half, but the incidence is the challenge. We have reduced our mortality rate also in tuberculosis, but the incidence to reduce one number, but we are trying many factors need to be improved to reduce the incidence of tuberculosis. Next slide, please. So these are the achievements. I think I can skip this slide. Yeah, next one is leveraging internal financing for better outcomes. Here I would say that enabling the financial stability through microfinance and social enterprise revenue, allowing long-term planning, responsiveness to energizing the health priorities and sustain core health facility, underserved, climate vulnerable, and remote areas. Even when donor funding is unavailable, we can plan accordingly. We can do some tests. We have that flexibility to do some pilots and actually implement or initiate those pilots to the field. And we can act based on those pilots. And this intervention actually involves based feasibility, monitoring data, and operational research. We can use those data easily for next initiative. And health interventions remains functional during crisis, emergency and funding shortfall, because whenever the emergency arises, we just jump in to control all those areas. So this is our strength, we think that. And the financial independence finally strengthens BRAC's ability to influence public and advocate national and global levels. Usually we, as I mentioned, we are very closely with the Bangladesh government. Next slide, please. So the lessons we have learned, there are many numbers, but I say that community participation is essential, because throughout the years, almost 54 years, we are working with the community. So their participation and their support throughout our journey is very relevant, and it ensured the sustainability of many outcomes in the community. And the holistic approach, holistic means integrate all the development themes, enterprise, microfinance, and other programs together. These actually basically we have learned that it's cost effective, as well as other task shifting sometime, and gender equality and climate resilience in few areas, because BRAC already worked hard to make strong those communities who are usually climate affected. So climate resilient housing and livelihood and agriculture in BRAC is supporting. So all those together actually the strength to BRAC to work for the people, very outcome driven, with the result driven. And the social enterprise must be recognized as central factors in achieving SDG, capable of delivering both economy, because this our social build the base of the community people, especially the women who are doing, because I have already mentioned that all the artisans, they are doing very nice artisans, they are actually preparing, giving and selling to BRAC in a cause. So they are also improving their livelihood, and they are becoming empowered. Next slide, please. So most probably this is my last slide. So the principles for driving the transformative social impact, we follow the 3 Ds actually. We are aiming for ambitions. We always aim for ambitions and want to do the system level changes. Otherwise, it's not possible to achieve or sustain the long-term effects or long-term results. So initially we think it as small, and then we scale it because it's necessary, and to see the real impact or bigger impact, we need the scaling actually. And we have vision. So we started the goal visions and the poverty transforming system eradicating diseases. So the main things we always want to do. And we believe in breaking boundaries, do partnership with different government as well as and different stakeholders within the country as well as beyond. And foster partnership with the non-profits also, business, policymakers, communities, definitely we are doing through communities. And innovation and coalition building are central to the future of the market. We believe in this work. And the third one, we are committed to long-term sustainable changes towards my presentation. Actually, I have mentioned several times that we always committed to long-term and sustainable changes. Lasting progress takes time and persistence. If we can do some persistence work gradually, but if we can do in a small way, small area, but sometimes we stop, then we will not get the result and it will not be continuous. The results will outcomes will not continue. So it needs persistent work. And definitely the policy reform, advocacy, and responsible enterprise is always should be aligned with the development work. And the, actually, the collective leadership especially is essential to address the question. And I think to this way, BRAC is successful to serve for the community. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions? Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone doing? We have a stimulating, presentation. I mean, I'm still digesting most of them. It's so fantastic. One of the speakers, thank you, Dr. Shayla. It's an amazing presentation. And so we have the opportunity of now listening to our speakers once more. It's a Q&A session. So how many of you are burning with some question? It's not to ask any of the speakers, so please raise your hands. Burning with some question. Let me see some hands up. Who are burning with questions? I have translators, don't worry. किसको प्रश्न पूछना है? Anybody wants to ask question? Yes, so please be ready. Okay. So I will just read out the names of the speakers once more to refresh. We have had a wonderful presentation by Dr. Neeraj on global transportation, and then we had on the law of the society, a couple of speakers on advocacy in Derby, and then we had Mr. Yaoqiang from HANDA, and also Reverend Joshua, who opened our eyes to what new kind of possibilities from the Children's Advocacy Association. And then we had last speaker, Dr. Shayla from BRAC, who really showed us the possibility of empowerment and microfinance. So the floor is open. Please raise your hand. Introduce yourself by your name and association. Keep the question brief. Not much time for your commentary, but keep it like a question. Okay. So who would like to ask the first question? Okay, I'll start from here since I already have mic in my head. Awesome. Thank you. I'm Patricia from the Leprosy Mission PNG, and it's my pleasure to be here, getting to know all of you, and also just appreciating all the wonderful presentation was presented as well. And from Leprosy Mission PNG, some of the presentation that you presented is just like very challenging presentation, some were success and some were we've seen the impact of the work that you have done in the life of people affected by leprosy. And one of the things that I want to take home from all the presentation that I've seen is to have established group of people affected by leprosy individual community. It's like sort of like a focus group in a community.
that we can empower their lives as well, apart from we can look into in terms of economical status, because some of the communities that we work in, we've seen like poverty is one of the areas that the people are really affected with. And also some of the gender issues, we talk about gender equality. These are some areas that we really need to look into it, like in Papua New Guinea, especially with female or women. There's like double discrimination, like women with disabilities or women with leprosy. So just grateful to be here and we are all families. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kadri. Yeah. Yes, we have a question. Please introduce yourself. And also tell the speaker to whom you want to address the question, if you have a specific one.
Yes, I have a question for HANDA, actually. I was very challenged for you on the issues you had when you weren't able to receive funding, and I think there will be other people in the room that may be facing future challenges in the future, receiving foreign funding. Are the rules still as strict today? And have you managed to find a way of still working with partners overseas despite those restrictions on receiving overseas funding?
Thank you for your question. Are you asking, sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes, of course, yeah. So you were saying that the legislation and the law changed to stop you receiving funds from overseas, which must have been a really difficult time. And I think there are people in the room facing similar challenges. Are the rules still as strict now? And have you found ways to still partner with organisations overseas despite those restrictions?
Yes, we even there is a law, but if you follow the law strictly, for example, we need to provide piles of documents to government for their approval to prove that this project is will be carried out in a strict accordance with our local regulations. But the process is very complicated and very long.
Okay,
So that's why we need to focus on local resource mobilization.
Thank you. Very interesting presentation.
Thank you, Peter. You have any other questions, Peter? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, let's mic over here.
Muy buenos días para todos y todas. Mi pregunta para la organización de Bangladesh, la doctora Shayla, ¿cuántos años lleva trabajando en Bangladesh con población vulnerable? Good morning. This is a question for the Dr. Shayla from BRAC. How many years have you been working with vulnerable communities in your country? Oh, is since 1972, it's almost 54 years we are working with the community. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shayla. Yes. Yes, please go ahead. Introduce yourself, your organization.
Hello, eu sou Anne Mesquita, do Manram, Brasil. A pergunta, comentário é para Nepal.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is President Mesquita from Warne, from Brazil. And the question is for Nepal.
Falamos ontem no grupo, né, sobre advocacy. Hoje, novamente, eu vi que, né, a gente está sempre com essa temática da advocacy. E a gente tem percebido que há, de fato, essa necessidade, né, do fortalecimento dessa temática entre as organizações.
So, yesterday we saw that we were talking about advocacy, and we know that we need to always talk about this topic.
Eu gostaria de saber, né, a participação das pessoas afetadas pela hanseníase, né, como se dá esse processo de apresentar recomendações, né, aos gestores, aos tomadores de decisão. Como é que dá essa real participação das pessoas afetadas?
So I would like to know how this co-participation of the people affected is done with the other people, the people that are policymakers and other people. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the very good question. Basically, evidence-based advocacy, what we have already done that we have conducted research, what type of laws are there, and whether these laws are incompatible with the international treaties to which Nepal is a party. For example, the human rights-based approach we have adopted. While conducting that type of research, we have also discussed with the policymakers together with the, for example, the government peoples, ministers, and the government officials, the member of parliamentarians at all levels, from the federal, provincial, and local level. And we also discussed together with the affected people, and we discussed together. I mean, we collected the feedbacks in the focus group discussions. We also collected feedbacks from the key informant interview with the affected people together with the policy level people. And we through the research, we identified the problems, and those problems, to address those problems, we conducted advocacy with the government people. Now the member of parliamentarians, government people, they are very much convinced that these provinces are discriminated. We need to remove those discriminatory laws based on the international treaties to which the country is a party. And now everything is fine. Now the government is in a process to develop the integrated bill where all the discriminatory laws can be repealed and removed, and the new provision can be inserted, ensuring the rights of the people with the affected by leprosy and their family members. That type of bill has been developing, and that bill will go to the parliament. We'll be working with the government while developing that type of bill, and then after that goes to the parliament. We'll also be working with the parliamentarians to approve and to pass that bill. And whenever that passes, then we'll be working with the government officials and the people affected by leprosy together to ensure their rights, whether these rights are reflected in the law and whether those rights are provided by the government bodies. That's how we have been working together, which we call the comprehensive approach to ensure the rights of the people affected by leprosy and their family members. Yeah. And through the national conference also, there was a huge participation from the people affected by leprosy and their family members. And the Prime Minister was also there in that program. And the head of the Nippon Foundation, Mr. Sasakawa, and these all, I mean, the Dr. Nanri, Dr. Ellis, all those people were also there, and the government, Ministry of Health and Population organized. And 10 other organizations, people's organizations were participating as co-organizers of that conference. It was recently in May 8 and 9 organized. So it was combined type of reports, and based on those reports we identified the issues, and those are going to reflect it in the law, and those laws will be implemented by the 3 tiers of the government, different tiers of the government, which has already been allocated. So that's how we have been identified comprehensive approach. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's a lesson for many of the nations to take on. Thank you so much. Next, yeah, please introduce yourself and who are you addressing the question to? And anybody else wants a question? Where the mic needs to be going 1, 2, 3. Right, please. Right, 1, 2.
Merci beaucoup. Je m'appelle Papa Mamadou Diagne, je viens du Sénégal. Je suis membre du panel de AIDA.
Thank you very much. My name is Papa Mamadou. I'm from Senegal and I'm a member of the ILEC panel.
Ma question s'adresse au révérend Joshua.
My question is to Reverend Joshua.
Vous avez parlé dans votre présentation sur l'importance de la mobilisation des ressources. Donc, j'aimerais savoir comment vous avez fait déjà pour identifier l'existence des ressources locales et quelle stratégie vous avez mis en place pour pouvoir capter ces ressources. Merci.
You talked about the importance of local mobilization, resource mobilization. I wanted to know first how you did to identify those local resources and what strategies did you put in place to mobilize resources? Thank you.
Good question. The local resource mobilizing, always we think about how we can get something from someone. I think before that, we should realize what resource almost we have. Sometimes we think about we have no anything with us. That is I think very dangerous. When I think since 1998, I have been working with people affected by leprosy. When I met the people affected by leprosy, I have seen them. I have on that time a lot of the compassion. Through that, I have seen lots of the resources have lifted and people affected by leprosy. Only they have a problem with the disease and disease-based discrimination and stigma. But they have a lot of the resource. I think we want to utilize resource first people affected by leprosy. Then we want to showcase the resource of the people affected by leprosy. Then we can mobilizing resource. One example I said. Now the Sri Lankan Leprosy People Association working with the Faculty of Agriculture, Jaffna University. You know, in Sri Lanka, the Jaffna University Faculty of Agriculture is a big institution. Now they only approaching for their research work and research purpose, they motivate the students, they encourage the students, you go with the people affected by leprosy and leprosy association because they are the good farmers to learn something from them. 1998, first time I met the people affected by leprosy, I found the people affected by leprosy the best farmers. The results, now the Faculty of Agriculture, they are using to them. This is the resource mobilized.
Thank you so much, Father Joshua, for eye-opening. Yes. Please introduce yourself and your organization and who are you asking?
Oke, terima kasih. Nama saya Beatriz Miranda dari PerMaTa Indonesia.
Thank you very much. My name is Sivagnanam from PerMaTa Indonesia.
Oke, pertanyaannya kepada Dr. Neeraj. Berdasarkan presentasi yang telah dipaparkan tadi, pendekatan kolaborasi untuk mobilisasi program HIV dan TB ini kan berjalan seperti itu. Sedang kami sendiri punya pengalaman di tahun 2012 kami mencoba untuk melakukan pendekatan untuk berkolaborasi.
My question is to Dr. Neeraj. So you mentioned about the collaboration program of HIV and also TB. So you also had a program, this program in 2012.
Kami mencoba melakukan pendekatan untuk meyakinkan bahwa kusta ini kalau diobati sudah tidak menular seperti itu. Tapi mereka melakukan penolakan terhadap kami sebagai organisasi yang orang yang pernah mengalami kusta karena mereka takut tertular dari kusta.
Yeah, we were rejected because we were people affected by leprosy and we felt we were rejected at that time.
Pertanyaan dari saya, bagaimana pendekatan yang efektif untuk meyakinkan teman-teman HIV bisa berkolaborasi dengan misalkan dengan TB yang Dr. Neeraj lakukan?
My question is on your approach, Dr. Neeraj, for this HIV and TB so that we can also apply this to leprosy. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good question. And I think when we look at TB programs, TB also faced a lot of discrimination. Likewise, HIV also faced a lot of stigma and discrimination. So in the local context, with those TB programs and HIV programs is an opportunity to look at how we dismantle stigma and discrimination. I think there will also possibly be resources that can be used locally for social interventions to tackle those, because it's easier to add on to existing programs rather than start programs. So having conversations with a country coordinating mechanism or other NGOs in those areas would be a good starting point.
Thank you. That's taken care of. Yeah. Thank you so much, Neeraj. So we have Beatriz here, and then we can go on. Can you pass the phone to Beatriz? Okay, so that means we have Beatriz 1 and 2. That's the last question. Thank you. I can always bring the speakers outside and back with us.
I have a question for Reverend Joshua. I understood that because of the whole rebranding thing that you are doing in Sri Lanka, the new generation of, let's say, children or youngsters affected by leprosy will not face the same stigma as the other generations. Do you think it's going to be like that? And also, how is these, for instance, the drama group and the plumbers, I guess that also they have something to teach about how to deal with our own fear and self-stigma, as it is called in leprosy, and how to deal with that, with the work that they do.
Yes. The rebranding is bring the people come forward from the all kind of the challenges. Because usually the young people, they don't like to come forward in the common forum to sharing, or they put their identification as to be a leprosy affected people. But the new branding approach, I think totally is deleted is a leprosy identity. This more this is more grown to the social inclusion. Yeah, especially one thing I can tell here about the disaster risk management programs. The government now announces disaster risk management programs across the Sri Lanka. But the local village people, the government want to teach to them. But sometimes people they don't allocate it for the time that. But the people affected by leprosy, especially young people, we encourage to learn from the government this trade. Now the DMC, District Disaster Management Committee, now they are using the volunteer, young people affected by leprosy. Now they have a good identity in the community. Now they go to the other villages, they are teaching about disaster management thing. This is, I think, the local village level young people, they think that is a kind of the new identity for them. I think the social inclusion, more social inclusion, I think reduce stigma, especially that.
To Reverend Father, thank you, Beatriz. The person there, and then we have the last person there. That's the end of the section. And then we have lunch. Please introduce yourself and who the question to.
Yeah,
Perkenalkan, saya Indonesia, saya dari Indonesia NLR. Saya ingin bertanya kepada Nepal Association.
my name is Sivagnanam. I'm from the Indonesian NLR. For Nepal.
Pertanyaannya, apakah ada pengalaman masalah hukum karena pelayanan karena pelanggaran kepada orang yang pernah menderita kusta? Contoh, pelanggaran HAM dan diskriminasi, supaya masyarakat dan terutama petugas kesehatan sadar hukum.
Have you ever encountered or experienced any cases or legal issues in relation to people affected by leprosy, especially human rights?
That's the question. Oh, yeah, so it's the question.
Thank you for the very good question from Indonesia. Basically, legal issues. We have been. There are some issues. For example, some of the leprosy affected people, they have lack of access to the legal aid, free legal aid services. That is one. And second one is these people are not being. Some of them, those people are not being able to get justice. For example, as per the international human rights norms and values, and we have principles and guidelines ensuring the rights of the people affected by leprosy and their family members. We are trying to reflect those guidelines and principles in the constitution itself and the other relevant legislation. And now Nepal Law Society is trying our best to provide legal aid service to those people who have affected by leprosy and their family members, not only related to this particular disease, but also related to the other legal complications. For example, if there is gender-based violence, to those people affected by leprosy, and they are deprived to get access to legal service, we will be providing legal aid service to them, free legal aid to them. That is one. The second one will also be advocating their rights with the local government, for example, rights and entitlements. That way we'll be advocating with the local government so that they will be able to get the particular service from the local government as well. That's how we have been working, and not only that, we have also working with the people's organizations, training to them. They are already trained people, but human rights based approach and legal training we are providing, and creating the human rights ambassadors among those organizations, so that these leaders will be conducting further training to the local level. That's how we have been working. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. Thank you. And I have to move on. I'm truly so sorry. I'm so conflicted. I know that person there. The person there who was, yeah, please go ahead. Introduce yourself and move on.
Thank you very much. My name is Kofi Yaoqiang from Ghana. Many of you knows me. First of all, before I will say anything, I will thank Sasakawa Health Foundation for supporting me to be here. Since 2005, any international congress that you have, Sasakawa Foundation have to make sure that Kofi will be there. Thank you so much for that. And also, I will pay a small tribute to Dr. The one from that is India, Dr. Gopal, and my friend from that is Nigeria, Shahu. These two people have passed away. And when I look through the audience, sometimes I feel sad because they were with me when we started, but they are no more. But I can see that the fire is still burning. And my father, also from Ethiopia, Mr. Ariga, also is not with us. He too has passed away. All this sometimes make me feel sad. But their feelings are with us. My question goes this way. when it comes to leprosy and then the stigma, most of the time, the those in the high position like president, the vice, everybody is doing their parts. But the main problem is in the grassroots. Most of the countries, when you go, you won't find the problem in the cities. But when you go to the communities, that is where the stigma and then the discriminations are. So most of us, already know that since the president, the parliamentarians are doing their part. What about those in the communities, especially the community leaders? I'm asking, especially those in Indonesia here. We are in the room here. I don't think when we finish in this room, that will be the end of the volume. I'm asking, what are some of the community leaders are with us? Because some of the organizations, they thought it's only for people affected. But today, I will tell you whole public, it's not only for people affected. Because not only one person or one organization can do this fight. It's the whole world. Whether you are affected by leprosy, whether you are a doctor, whether you are a seller in the community, you are with us to fight this stigma and discrimination. So I want to know Indonesia here, if they look at people, some of them are with us, so that after this, be able to educate their community. Thank you.
Thank you, Coffee, for your wisdom. We love you and you are a star among us and got your message. I'm sure some of the speakers, all speakers, they did touch upon, what all we could do. So I think there's lots to do. We take it as a homework back more. Thank you. Thank you so much. 2 questions, no more, and no lunch otherwise. That's really fair. And then one more person.
Yes, please. Thank you for this opportunity. Ma'am, this question is for you, and I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the articulate presentation that has been given to us. You talked about, well, first of all, I'm sorry, I am Lilibet Ivarestus, the Anile Advisory Panel member, and the National Coordinator for Whadupp Initiative in Nigeria, an association of women and children affected by Hansen disease in Nigeria. When you talked about the lesson learned and the way forward, you said social enterprise must be recognized. And this is the second time I am hearing about this social enterprise. And within my small group, women group, we've tried to do something like that, but maybe because of the technical know-how we lacked, we were not, we didn't succeed in that. Then having to come here now and hearing about social enterprise, please, I will want you to, maybe after this section, to tell me, and thank God I am here with one of the leader of my women group, for you to tell us on the way to go. Let me not taking time. We first of all started with rearing of children. Because we know that we live in a colony, and within that place, there's no place they sell eggs. So the idea was for us to train chicken, and then so that people will come buy our chicken, and then also buy eggs. So giving us, we're making some income from that. But my woman leader, you are here, we did not succeed. We lost most of our chicken. Now that this has come up, I want you to tell us, you will educate me and my group, my women, and our project director is here for us to know what to do going back, because I really agree with you that social enterprise is the way to go. Thank you, ma'am.
Dr. Shayla, thank you for the question. Could that be taken outside this meeting, so you have a closing meeting?
Yes, outside.
Thank you, that's wonderful. That's the last person there. Yes, you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The last one.
Yeah, how are you people? Okay, I'm Guilford. What? I'm Guilford from Kenya. Education was to Ireland. I'm happy to hear about the great speeches about people, how you people are about how different stakeholders like ILEP are willing to support organizations of people affected by leprosy. Okay, my question is now, what commitment can you give to people's organization like Idea Kenya, which are from countries where there are no international or national NGO to support national program or grassroots people's organization? Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. It's a good and important question. And it's difficult for us, this one, because ILEP members are working in certain countries and not in certain other countries. And Kenya is a gap for us. So that's a struggle. I have heard from you and also from Joshua the same question. So this is one we need to take back and figure out. I don't know an answer to that one yet. Okay? So leave that would be, we can continue to correspond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being a very wonderful audience. It was great speakers and taking value. Please continue to interact with the speakers outside and also Geoff and all the other earlier speakers. And we break for lunch. Please be back at 2:10 with 5 minutes extra time given you 2:15 max. Okay, have a good lunch. Thank you.